Okay, this talk is called Bye Bye Cheerios and Quaker Oats, or you could call it, what's new in oats and grains. What's basically going on is they're putting a new, it's actually been in there for years and just nobody knew about it, a new chemical um, into the oats. So it gets into the Cheerios, it gets into the Quaker Oats, and they're potentially spraying it on other things. This chemical is called chlormequat. Okay, it's a plant growth regulator. And apparently, it keeps the plant growing more vertical, and that makes it easier to harvest. The problem with it is it can cause delayed puberty in children, so people have labeled this as a puberty blocker, and it also can cause infertility. And they found that an extraordinarily high number of Americans have this in their blood, like 80% and even 90% when they tested it in 2023. So it's common. And the amounts people have, markedly increased levels were noted in the samples from 2023. And this also makes more and more people come to the conclusion that there's a lot of things simultaneously happening of these slow poisons that are making people infertile as well as making them sick in other ways. So yeah, here's an article from the New York Post. You'll see there's a lot of publicity on it. And like I said, it's in Cheerios. Right now, as far as we know, it's in the non-organic oats. It's sprayed on them, not on the organic, even though they're pushing to get it on the organic. And it especially comes from stuff that's shipped in from other countries outside of the United States. Here's an article, on PubMed in the journal article talking about how shockingly common it is in foods that Americans eat. Okay. And, what's this thing about, anytime you say anything intelligent, people say, you're being controversial or something. Look at this. You got this chlormequat in the oats, and these are real common foods, real commonly eaten by kids, non-organic oatmeal and Cheerios. It's been used apparently as over like 30 years. I don't know the exact number of years. Like I said, people are calling it puberty blockers in kids' food. And, nowadays, too, there's some push to demonize organic food and even trying to say, it generates more CO2, therefore it's bad. CO2 is a fundamental thing on the planet, okay? That's all kind of crazy, okay? Plants generate oxygen, and we generate CO2, the animals. And trying to say CO2 is bad is like saying mammalian life is bad, okay? That's kind of a pretty big stretch. And note the logic. To say CO2 from an animal's mouth is bad, but then F minus is good. This AP L stuff on food and avocados is good. This chlormequat stuff is good. I mean, what's good and what's bad? It's almost like what's good and what's bad is being turned upside down. The old motto used to be save the children, be fruitful and multiply. Then it went to save the trees but kill the children. And now it seems to be get rid of the trees and get rid of the children, okay? That's the great reset, okay? And then the open, down south is the great replenishment, okay? Soy is for chumps, okay? If you read the papers on soy before the modern, industry-funded stuff to publicize it, that's another thing to, lower sperm counts, can damage the female reproductive tract, and to cause infertility, okay? It's for chumps. And they put it in baby food, okay? That's pathetic. It's terrible. All right, tap water is full of estrogenic chemicals, which can decrease fertility. It's also got aluminum in it. Aluminum is also in the cans for baby formula and other canned foods. They're sprayed in the skies, as we well know. The trails. High fructose corn syrup is sprayed with atrazine, very powerful estrogenic chemical, endocrine disrupting chemical that can turn the male frog into a female frog. And also, remember the article I showed in a previous lecture that about most of these chemicals that are endocrine disrupting, about 80% of them that are estrogenic, they're also neurotoxic. And there's a real famous scientist who wrote that. I think it was Gil Sertolini. It was in my other talk on this subject. Okay, what else? Baby formula's also got the BPA lining, which can lead to reproductive endocrine problems. Electropollution, the typical dumb guy has got his phone in his front pocket, genius. Stevia, a common sweetener, even recommended by some so-called vegan nutrition phony experts. It causes infertility. You don't want to be using that stuff. Personal care products, they all got estrogen and preservatives in them. We talked about this. Aluminum with the parabenzoic acids. Aluminum is a metalloestrogen. The parabenzoic acids are other preservatives in deodorant. And they're in all the personal care products. The reason is they're antifungal. The companies don't want mold growing in their product, okay? High-fat diet, generates atherosclerosis, makes men impotent. Higher estrogen levels, too, as they get fat, then their fatty tissues got more aromatase enzyme to convert testosterone into estrogen. So being fat does lower a man's testosterone, okay? And a lot of these guys with the moobs, man boobs, it's gynecomastia, female breast development. Okay, sad diet increases the risk of PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. Sad diet also changes the gut biome because it leads to more so-called bad bacteria that deconjugate estrogen. Our high levels of estrogen are excreted through the liver. It's conjugated with something called glucuronic acid. Kind of think of it as being like glucuronic, like a carboxylic acid added to a glucose. There's a little more to it than that, but that's good enough to know. Conjugates the estrogen, makes it more polar, it's excreted into our intestinal tract. But then the bad bacteria have the enzyme glucuronidase. They unconjugate it, so then we reabsorb the now unconjugated estrogen into our bodies. Normally, we would defecate the excess estrogen out of our body to lower our estrogen levels. Okay, they trick these young kids into being confused about their gender with all these estrogenic chemicals in their food, in their water, in the sky. And then when these kids are confused, they'll chemically or surgically castrate them. Men are encouraged to get vasectomies, which is irreversible. You don't want to get vasectomy. I see tons and tons of complications from vasectomy. Tons of guys got pain in their balls the rest of their life. You don't want to do that. They encourage women to be promiscuous when they're young. These health classes putting condoms on banana. When kids are promiscuous at a young age, they'll get markedly increased incidence of sexually transmitted diseases. And the women in particular will sometimes scar off their fallopian tubes. They don't even realize it. And then they're encouraged with all this, education's the most important thing in the world. Family's nothing, to be a housewife and take care of children for losers. And so they delay their, trying to have kids till they're in their mid to late 30s. And then quite often they're infertile. I know a lot of doctors that have struggled through this in vitro fertilization attempt stuff. Okay, also they encourage the popular culture, all this feminism that makes women toxic to men. Because normally women and men, they just really like each other, okay? It's a natural thing. But with all this feminism, they make women hate men and they make the woman not as appealing to the man, okay? Guys don't really want that much from their woman, just tell me the truth, don't cheat on me, okay, I'll provide for you, okay, let's have some kids. Certainly it'd be wonderful if you got a lot more than that, but that's sort of the bare minimum that you hope through, and that's enough. Okay, let's see what else. They tell women, that their career is so much better than that. I can tell you, I know lots of female doctors who put their career like this much above their family, and they regretted it later. My mom was the happiest person I ever saw in my life. She was so happy that my dad could support her, and she didn't have to bother working anymore. She loved it, having the family and doing whatever she wanted, playing tennis, being on the board of directors at an orphanage, being a tour guide, at the zoo, at the tour guide at the architecture places, tour guide at the art institute. Whatever she liked doing, she did it. And she was so happy to see us. Where I see all the middle-aged women in my family, they're all kind of grouchy because they all work, and then they're tired when they come home, and then no one else cares of the house. They got to clean the house when they come home. Anyway, so I just brought this up because it's one more thing pushing that infertility. So I think that one of the big prizes a woman can have nowadays is to be fertile, because so many of them are going to be infertile, okay, and a lot of the men too. We're going to see a dramatic drop in the population numbers is what I predict, not to mention all the other simultaneous things that are happening. This stuff in the food, it's a big deal. So anyways, hope that was interesting.